Hello everyone, hello. This year is dedicated to Lili Nishmas, Rachalea Bas, Reb Chaim Tzvi. We have learned through the Chafetz Chaim's introduction, the Psicha and the Hakdama. Now we're up to the Sefer itself, the laws of Lashon Hara, the Sefer Chafetz Chaim itself, the halachas of Lashon Hara. The Chafetz Chaim has 8 klalim, where he goes through, 10 klalim, 10 chapters, in the halachas of Lashon Hara. That's the way he breaks it up, a klal with this ifim. Now, it's interesting, the Sefer Chafetz Chaim, it's a halacha sefer. The halacha is the laws of Lashon Hara, what's mutter, what's aser. But there are really two ways to learn this sefer. Because you could learn just the dry halachos. But the sefer itself, what's mutter, what's aser, when and how. But the Sefer Chafetz Chaim also has very elaborate footnotes and ha'aros. He explains the sources for everything that he says. First, a source for everything that he says. And if there is one Gemara or two Gemaras that seem to contradict, and he'll explain how they fit together and how it fits with what he's saying. And he gathered all the Gemaras and all the Rishonim, and he brought it all together. And in the footnotes, you have really elaborate discussions, detailed, like learning Be'iyun, in depth, about all the background for the laws of Lashon Hara. And if a person wants to, you can learn the footnotes of the Sefer as well. And you're learning the topic Be'iyun Gomer, totally Be'iyun, in a very in-depth way. Not just the dry halachas, what's mutter, what's aser, but in a much more intensive way. You learn the background as well from the footnotes. I know whenever my Rebbe Rav Shechter Shlit talks about the Sefer Chafetz Chaim, he always points out the Chafetz Chaim quotes every Gemara that's relevant to Lashon Hara and the Rishonim, like the work that the Chafetz Chaim did. It's fabulous. All the Makaros. There are kollel around the world where they'll spend a zman learning the Sefer Chafetz Chaim Be'iyun. They'll go through the Sefer in depth, in every line, and analyzing, and every footnote, and this Gemara, and that Gemara, and this Rishon, and that Rishon. Okay. What we're going to be doing really is sort of in between. We're not going to just be learning the dry halachos. We're going to be learning the footnotes as well, but we're not going to learn every footnote in depth. These footnotes are very, very, very long. We're going to be learning Be'ez Hashem highlights from the footnotes as well, which will add a lot of depth to what the Chafetz Chaim says, give the background, the sources, and the analysis. So we'll be going through the Sefer with the halachos and the ha'aros, not all the ha'aros, not every long ha'ara, but we'll be discussing a lot of the ha'aros, taking out the highlights from the ha'aros themselves. Okay, so let's begin. Klal Aleph, Seif Aleph. The Chafetz Chaim begins. You can't talk in a derogatory way about your friend, even if it's totally true. If there's a lie also in what you're saying, that's already motzi shemer. If you lie, then it's worse. That's also a shemer. Over below tase. Whoever speaks Lashon Hara violates this lav. Which lav? Shenemar lo terech rachel be'amecha. V'zagam kein b'chal rechilusu. Don't be a rochel. Don't be a talebearer. And this lav is included in rechilus as well. That is Seif Aleph. Now, to those of us that have just finished learning the introduction, this halacha seems we know it already. The Chafetz Chaim begins the introduction with a very similar halacha, where he presents the lavin and the asein about Lashon Hara. Now, so it goes as follows. In the introduction, the Chafetz Chaim was giving a list of all the mitzvos and all the lavs that a person violates if they speak Lashon Hara. And that was and we discussed why he has the list and what it's all about. Now, in the Sefer itself, he's been in the halachas of Lashon Hara. Now, when you write a halacha Sefer, you always start from the basics. What is the basic mitzvah? What is the basic lav? Give me the simple, and then you go to the more complex. That's how you write a halacha sefer. If you open up the Shmir Shabbos Kol Chasa, so you have a chapter on bishul. So first he defines what is bishul, what is the basic rules of bishul, and what's the lav, and then the more details of all the details of halacha u'maisa of bishul. That's how you teach halacha. You start from the basics, and then you develop more of the details. So the Chafetz Chaim here, in the halacha part of the Sefer, is starting from the basics. There's a lav, it's us to speak Lashon Hara. If you would learn the entire introduction. We know this already. Okay, not everyone learns the introduction, number one. And number two, like I said, when you're writing a Sefer Halacha, it has to be clear that we're going to develop more details about the laws of Lashon Hara now in this first cloud, this first chapter. So this is the opening Halacha. Speaking Lashon Hara, even if it's true, is an Isser D'Oraisa. What's the Isser D'Oraisa? Lo seirich rachel b'amecha. Okay. Now the Chofetz Chaim has a lot to say here in the footnotes. Number one, this idea that Lashon Hara is Asr, even if it's true, so we know it now, we all know this, because the Chofetz Chaim wrote a Sefer, and it's become very popular, and in the last 100 years, so this idea has become more popular. But when the Sefer was written, this wasn't not everyone knew this, so the Chofetz Chaim spent a lot of time in the footnotes bringing their source